Hello, everyone. I am with Sacred Blue Heron Woman and from Indianola, Oklahoma, and I am Julian Catari in Jalapa, Veracruz. This is I Need Living Conversations, the 76th conversation, and the second part of the art of crafting yourself, the craftsmanship of yourself, the science of being and becoming, the second part of this series. So I want to welcome you all, and a special welcome to Sacred Coherent Women. How are you?
I am fabulous.
Awesome. So in the last session, we had a we were told we gathered around the fire to listen to the creation story, a newly imagined and newly created and freshly baked creation story, which is very necessary to put into symbolic and even to, and we talk about a lot about the archetypes that need to evolve in within us and that need to change our mind structures, which then give way to the structures of matter, of DNA, and what's and etc. So this creation story is this freshly baked. I mean, the creation story is really important, so that we are eating, that we are feeding from the sacred in a fresh way. This is what Sacred Blue Heron Woman has brought us on the last session, and so it hasn't ended. And I don't know what we're going to see in this session. So what's it going to be?
Well, yeah, so last session we started with that science has discovered there is a God or a great void or great mysteries out there, and they called it the sacred or the principle or the ultimate principle. And the scientific definition of the word principle is that it must create, constitute, govern, sustain, and contain within itself all it has created. So we're still going down the branch of creation one more time today. For now, there's going to be much more to it, but this is all I have. And then next week we'll tune into constituting.
Okay. Wow.
So, and that we'll finish up with what I have prepared here for creation, and then we're going to hear some messages from some words of wisdom from the great mysteries, the tripartite, the great grandmothers, okay. The Shmukine, Nukua, and Amara.
Okay.
So creation continued. So our principal task as a human is to exist in the universe, is to make space for ourselves in the great mysteries, in the old ones, as Albert Einstein called them. Mm-hmm. The all, the great mysteries, or God, is humans exist. What does exist mean? It means to come out of, to blossom out of, exit. That's where the first EX is like exit. You're exiting from the isness, coming into form. So we live in the midst of infinite immensities. Don't forget the ducks, Alexis. And are intrinsically woven into a great cosmic drama. The plane of our solar system is tilted at 30 degrees to the plane of Milky Way. Remember, last week we talked about the birth of our great-grandmother Milky Way and our solar system, her grandson, right? So, so our solar system is tilted at 30 degrees to the plane of great-grandmother Milky Way. So our solar system actually corkscrews its way around that arm of the of Milky Way. So humans like Einstein and Hubble were not projecting their philosophical perspectives on the universe. They were rather attending to the movements and structures in the universe. They were listening deeply to the patterns in the photons or the heart song of Ishmukine that came to them each night in their observatories. So what we now know about the void or the great mysteries has been gotten and continues to be gotten by listening to and reflecting on the news that the universe or the great mysteries, Ishmukane, Spider Woman, Thought Woman, Nukua, and Amara bring us. We humans had to develop the sensitivities necessary to awaken to the story that has been here throughout our entire existence, and we still have to awaken ourselves to the sensitivity. There's not a reaching out, rather we must reach into our immediate experience, because we are the space created in the tripartite process for hearing and celebrating the stories of the universe that fill the great void, the great mysteries. So one scientist stands out, Albert Einstein. The critical period was the second decade of the 20th century in Berlin. Einstein can be seen as a power that destroys one world and creates another. In approaching Einstein, we see him bent over his desk at night. Through the years of World War I, we see one event if we use the pre-Einsteinian physics. If we use the physics that flowed from his pencil that night, which is another event, we see a larger, more inclusive Einstein event. That night, he was literally destroying and recasting a central code of the Newtonian cosmology. So on November 12, 1914, Albert Einstein created his general theory of relativity into the case where gravitational effects are taken into account. To everyone alive at that time, his equation would appear to be just a few letters and a few numbers scrawled onto a page. To Einstein, they reveal something unbelievable about the universe as a whole. He was stunned into bafflement by what he was seeing. Through the symbols, numbers, and letters on the paper, the universe, great mysteries, Ishmukane was singing to him that she's expanding continually, that the three are expanding continually in all directions. No one in 3 centuries of scientific work had ever imagined such a possibility. All his life, Einstein, and we still do, assume that the universe was an unchanging, infinite space. The universe was and still is perceived as a vast and fixed place, a celestial container that houses the stars, planets, and everything else. So now he and all of us are confronted with the news that the universe expands in every direction. And Einstein actually rejected this truth. He lost his nerve. He altered the equations to hide their difficult, shattering truth. So therefore, he preserved his attachment to an unchanging universe. A few years later in Russia, the mathematical cosmologist Alexander Friedman, when pondering Einstein's equations, made the startling discovery that Einstein's equations pointed to an expanding universe. So imagine Friedman's excitement as he rushed to write a letter to tell Einstein of his discovery. Now imagine Einstein's face when he read this letter, thinking he'd put all this behind him. So one tends to find their potential on the path they take to avoid finding it.
Wow, that's something I want to remember.
Yeah, Friedman's work failed to dislodge Einstein from his errors. But yet in the next decade, Edwin Hubble in California trained his telescope on the distant galaxies and saw that they were in fact expanding away from us. So finally in the 1920s, when Hubble invited Einstein to his observatory, Einstein finally became convinced that the old idea of the universe as a fixed, unchanging macrocosm, that the universe is simply a giant box, was fallacious, incomplete, and inaccurate. When he looked through Hubble's telescope and saw with his own eyes the galaxies expanding away from us, did he finally realize that his original insight into a dynamic, expanding universe was in fact the cosmic absolute truth. There's very few absolute truths in an infinite universe, but the fact that that is always expanding away from us is an absolute truth.
Yeah.
So if we look beyond our great-grandmother Milky Way galaxy into the great sea of galaxy clusters, we find that they indeed are expanding away from us. Since Einstein, it's been found that not only are the galaxies expanding away from each other, they are moving away with a velocity related to the space between them. So the further apart they are, the faster they fly away from each other.
Mhm.
So the mathematical conclusion could not be more startling. By tracing the trajectories of the superclusters of galaxies backward, we find an event where all are brought into a single ineffable point, a period. We talked about that period last week. Ishmukane, sitting in stillness. Spider woman, thought woman, sitting in stillness. Single point before she started to sing.
All right.
The prediction was that there must be a form of radiation that came from the primordial birth of our universe. So in the 1960s, two scientists actually discovered this radiation, the photons that were set in motion with Ishmukane singing her heart song, her essence. From the photons, these two scientists discovered Ishmukane, or the birthplace of the universe, to be 15 billion light years away. With Edwin Hubble's discovery of the galaxies moving away from us in all directions, the startling conclusion is that we are at the center of the cosmos. This does not mean that we return to the cozy medieval geocentric world. We are instead entering an immense dynamic cosmos centered on its own expansion. So how can we be 15 billion light years away from Ishmukane, Nukua, Marama, and the twins, Whirlwind Man and Lightning Man, and yet still be at the center? Well, we have difficulties with this concept only because our minds have been shaped by a culture rooted in a Newtonian worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So the birth of our universe, Ishmukane singing, means not only the birth of all the elementary particles of the universe, and not only the birth of all the light and energy of the universe, it also means the birth of the space and time of the universe. There is no pre-existing Newtonian space box into which the universe explodes forth. We must now understand omnicentricity.
Omnicentricity?
Omnicentricity.
Okay, are you going to explain that?
An omnicentric great mystery from which the beginning, or God, is centered upon itself at each place of existence. So you are omnicentric, I am omnicentric. Everyone is omnicentric.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it will be this way whether or not you choose to accept this truth as it is, because it's an absolute truth.
One of the things that we discuss a lot, that we don't live in a solipsist world, that everybody lives in their own belief. Rather, there is a objective reality. There is a truth.
Yeah. So the cause of the expansion is the space rushing into existence and flinging everything apart from each other. So Ishmukane, Nukua, and Marama's wild spirits' heart songs, breathing forth billowing chasms of space, at whose center you are.
Mm-hmm.
To be in the universe is to be at its center. So you exist then at the very point of the great mysteries, God, Ishmukane, because every place in the universe is God. That place where Ishmukane, or God, started singing her heart song and breathing out her essence with each heart, with each vowel she sang, with each whatever it was she sang. Her essence breathed forward from her. So on this journey, let's now approach the power that billowed forth with Ishmukane's gift of sharing. The quantum vacuum vortex is that power. For us, vacuum tends to mean an empty space, nothingness. But this power, quantum vacuum, is everywhere. So if you cup your hands together and reflect on what you're holding there, what are the contents? You would say nothing because I can't see anything, but there's molecules of air, molecules of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other trace gases. More than 1 billion, if you cup your hands like this, there's more than 1 billion trillion molecules in your hand.
Okay.
In your hand. If we remove one of these atoms, you would be left holding extremely small particles, such as the neutrinos from the sun. In addition, there would be radiation power in the form of invisible light, the photons, dancing forms from Ishmukane singing, and Nukua singing, and Amara singing.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to nothingness, we'd have to remove every single particle. Now imagine that we did this. We were able to remove all the particles and you have empty space in your hands. Well, this is pretty much impossible because as soon as there's empty space, then the particles simply foam into existence.
Okay.
So the singing just simply foams into existence. So I'm asking us all to contemplate that our universe, the great mysteries, God, where somehow beingness, existence itself, arises out of a field of fecund emptiness, fecund meaning fertile.
Mm-hmm.
The time-space then of the great mysteries, God, is empty fullness or space-time foam.
Mm-hmm.
We have since discovered that cumulus clouds, the sun, an ostrich, a banana, a fruit fly, a monkey, and you are all composed of the same atomic elements, but not me. I'm in a total different class. Not really. So we are cousins, brothers, sisters to everything and everyone in the universe, in the great mysteries, the three great mysteries, or God, if that's what you want to call it. Your elementary particles and atoms are not permanently existing objects. They are events that are vibrating at extremely rapid rates. To say vibrating is actually inaccurate, incomplete, as particles exist in one location and then exist in another location without traversing the space in between.
Yeah.
So a more accurate term might be to say that your particles and atoms are flashing into existence, surging into existence, and then just as suddenly dissolving from their place to surge forth in a nearby location. Mm-hmm. So Grandmother Moon is not a dead object. She is instead an ongoing, scintillating event. The photons from Grandfather Sun interact with her particles. So the process of this interaction begins with the annihilation of the particles as they are absorbed into the all-nourishing. So they get absorbed, they're annihilated, and they flash forward again in sea foam. So the process of this interaction begins with the annihilation of the particles as they are being absorbed into the all-nourishing abyss, the vacuum or the vortex, and is followed by the creation of a new set of particles. If this new set of particles contains any photons, the photons are also new as they came forth out of the annihilating event of the interaction. So moonlight comes from the moon, for moonlight is created by Grandmother Moon. So the people who say that Grandmother Moon just simply reflects the light of Grandfather Sun, no, she's creating it by her interaction with his light.
Okay, yeah.
So the true significance of the discovery of the quantum vacuum vortex, or Ishmukane's essence, Amara's essence, and Nukua's essence, is the new understanding it provides concerning the reality of the non-visible. And I say non-visible rather than invisible, because many things are invisible to us and yet are capable of being seen. The non-visible is that which can never be seen. It cannot even be pictured as it is non-visible and non-visualizable. Even so, it is profoundly real and powerful. So now we're on the voyage of learning how to, quotes, read the universe so that we might enter and inhabit our bodies and location as a communion event. a communion with all of life, a communion with Ishmukene, Nukua, Amara, God, whirlwind man, lightning man. And we can now experience Grandmother Moon as an event that tumbles into existence each moment, and her light as being expressive of her reality. You can now understand her as a creative source, as an origin of Ishmukene singing, a geyser in the sky where Ishmukene, Nukua, and Marama with whirlwind man and lightning man dance and spray into existence. So we can now start understanding that the universe, the great mysteries, or God, is not a collection of dead objects. It's a seamless, undivided, pulsing, flowing, rhythmic whole community made up of cosmos creating events. That which gave birth to the universe is giving birth in this moment itself as well. So welcome to this space where we want to know how the old ones, Ishmukene, Nukua, and Marama, whirlwind man and lightning man, great-grandmother Milky Way, and grandfather, elder brother, son, think. How the old ones are shaping the great vaults of the heavens, how the old ones are bringing us into being, existence every moment. So to become human, we must make room for ourselves in the immensities of the universe, great mysteries, God. That which Ishmukene sang forth 15 billion light years ago now continues to blossom forth in us, our community of living beings, our earth, our ocean of galaxy clusters, the same fecund, fertile source then and now, the same numinous energy then and now. To make room for ourselves in the immensities of the old ones is to enter as a family member of an omnicentric, unfolding God, great mystery, and to taste the joy of radical relationship, mutuality, Aini. The center of the cosmos, or God, or Ishmukene, is each event in the cosmos. So each human, each pig, each goat, each duck, each fly, each mosquito lives in the center of the cosmos and holds the center of the cosmos in them.
Wow. So this is pretty advanced stuff.
Pretty advanced creation stuff.
Pretty advanced everything. This is to me the top of the line school right here.
Yeah.
It ain't anywhere else. It's right here.
Yeah. It's been an interesting journey, and there will be more to come here.
So may I say that this was also this session we're having today was planned, was conveyed because of the full moon that we are going through pretty much around this time. And
it was brought into, I typed it quite a while ago. But
you did tell me last week that you wanted to have this as a full moon kind of.
Oh, well, I'm going to go into here some words of wisdom channeled from Ishmukene, Nukua, and Amara. There's no distant, the old ones. That's just what I'm going to call them from now on, to keep it simple. From the old ones, their essences. And we'll talk more, I'll channel more about the essences from them. But so in conjunction with the full moon, which is the brightness, the brightest, the moon, Grandmother Moon is closest to us. It's our primary job and responsibility as humans to maintain possibility consciousness. The great mysteries, the old ones, God wants us to know this. It is our primary job and responsibility as humans to maintain possibility consciousness. Because with possibility comes everything. With possibility, we take off the limitations. Ishmukene says, with possibility consciousness, you unshackle us, the old ones, and let the miracles flow. With possibility, you are open to the infinite number of ways we can and will manifest. With possibility consciousness, you're no longer fixated on your own preconceived notions of what ought to or should be done, which kind of is the law of Wu Wei, ties into the, not the law, but the principle. So with possibility consciousness, you become a greater place and space through which we, the old ones, can express essential nourishing munai, essential nourishing peace, and essential nourishing pleasure or happiness. And the whirlwind man and lightning man would be essential nourishing strength and essential nourishing will. So possibility consciousness is a sacred yes. This saying yes to possibility consciousness is not about any one particular thing. It's about the allness of it all. This is what the old ones want us to know about oneness with us. And I'm speaking, when I say us, I'm speaking as them. It is about the fact that you are in us and we are in you. And understand that we are good all of the time and that we have the most expansion possible in mind for everyone. So your spiritual essence or essential true self is not something you have to strive to become. It's not a perk or reward for having lived a certain spiritual path. Your spiritual essence, essential self, is not something that you create or make up. Your spiritual essence or essential self flows from us through our heart song, through our singing. So you already are essence, essential. But it appears to us, they say, that you need to be nearly assaulted or beaten by the information before you are willing to just surrender and listen to it.
Okay.
You, not you specifically, you as humans, that's what they're saying.
You only learn by the stick.
That's a story we keep telling ourselves because we only want the stick, right? We just want to doggedly keep going on our way until the stick comes along.
Right. Or we can learn from the stick that we don't want to learn by the stick. And then we begin learning without the stick.
Yeah, then we begin learning without the stick, without being beaten by it, which I just beat my dog. When you know that all things are possible, they're saying, when you know that all things are possible, then you relax your expectations, your perceptions about the fulfillment process. When you understand that all things are possible, you know you are never limited by the finite material facts that appear to be before you in the moment. Your society is very much entrenched in and enthralled with the remnant images of ancient Rome and Greece that have influenced your Western thought processes. You still have in your minds an idea of warring gods that are manipulating you as human beings upon some chessboard of life. So now you see us, or you see, if you want me to say this is God, then you see me as a god on some sort of power trip trying to manipulate you to prove how big and how strong we are, or I am. And you humans continue to imagine that all the secrets of life are tucked away in a cave in the desert, or the Masonic lodges, or the Knights Templar, and that you have to slay dragons to get to the secrets, or you have to become a 33rd degree Mason to get to the secrets. But we want you to know that there is no external destination. There's no quest to somewhere out there to find our good. The cave you seek is in your own mind. The only dragons you will ever have to face are your own dragons of fear, greed, lack, limitation, your sense of separation, and your state of fragmentation or brokenness that you cling to like a life preserver. We have not put these dragons there, they are saying. They are yours and you created them.
Oh, wow. Who says that?
Ishmukane, the old ones.
Okay.
Or God, whichever one you want to use.
And now we need help getting rid of them.
So the first level of possibility consciousness is your own belief in yourself, that you can hold possibility consciousness. You start by knowing that you are good because we are good, that you are perfect because we are perfect, that you are whole because we are whole, and that you are complete because we are complete. And know that you are filled with infinite possibilities. We want you to know that you're not just an entity in the universe that activity is happening to. We want you to understand and know deep in your heart that you are a space and a place where activity is happening through. Know that the good you seek is seeking you. Know that you are one with us and we are partners in everything. Know that you just have to believe. You just need to choose to believe this. Now, relating to God, many of you use the blanket term Christ consciousness without realizing what it is you're speaking about. When you speak about the new age, oh, we're all coming into Christ consciousness, and nobody has a clue what Christ consciousness means, other than it's got to be tied to the Jesus of the Bible somehow. Christ consciousness is the awareness of the oneness of your essential self with us, or the one you call God. When this oneness consciousness becomes your identity, the prism through which you view everything will change. There is a common misperception being taught in many, many churches that the only way one's life can be saved from our supposed destruction, and you all believe that we're supposedly going to destroy the earth, is to accept the man Jesus as one's personal savior. So what is it? We'd like to know, what is it you think Jesus saves you from? And what is the relative importance of believing that he will save you when it comes to your relationship with us? When the man Jesus spoke of his oneness with me, God, I'll switch to God now from the old ones, just simply because we're talking Bible now. He was speaking about the oneness of his true essential being nature with me. This is God saying. The oneness of everyone of your spiritual essential nature is the definition of the word Christ. Jesus and Christ are not the same. Jesus was not the all of me. Ishmukane says in Mara Nukuase, Jesus was not the all of us. He was simply a representation of oneness with us, of possibility consciousness. He has no more of a monopoly on Christ consciousness than he did on his oneness with us. The consciousness of Christ, the possibility consciousness, lives on forever, and it's not attached to any one person in particular. It's available for all of us to be. So when you see the world through the eyes of a Christ, you no longer feel yourself the victim of anything. And because of Jesus' intention to be a Christ, in the moment that anything happened, he was inevitably able to let it go and give it up to us for transmutation. Now, I'm again talking, the old ones are talking. When you hold on to things that have happened in your life, they take up space, the old things that have happened. When you wear your scars like merit badges or name tags, then you are wedded to them. And you are available to your scars and your name badges only, and not to us, an infinite possibility. Now we'd like to talk to you about time and possibility, or Christ consciousness. So we'll let our granddaughter, which is your great-grandmother, Milky Way, introduce herself.
Okay.
Great-grandmother Milky Way says, you know me already, even though most of you humans do not know me as your great-grandmother or even as a family member. With your eyes, you can know me at night and see how great and ancient is my spread of stars, like a dusty ribbon of light making a circle around your mind. These stars are my tapestry, which is the weaving of time. Each star is the center of its own time. Every planet rotates in its time around a star. Often there is at least one moon rotating in its own time around a planet. The time of the moon keeps time with the time of the planet. The time of the planet keeps time with the time of its star. The time of the star keeps time with my heartbeat, my heart song. Great-grandmother Milky Way says, if you do not know about time, you cannot know who you are. To know who you are is to know how to take your time. What is time? How can you know about time? You can't see, touch, or feel or taste time, but can you hear time? You know time passes or that you pass through time, but what is it? And what is it in you that knows time? Because everything is related in time. Time relates everything. Time is the story of the relation of all things to another. Time is the story of Aini.
Okay.
Great-grandmother Milky Way says, time is how you pass through the mystery of what I am. Time is the weaving of all the different great-grandmother galaxies that make up the universe. Time is the weaving of Ishmukene, Amaranukua, Whirlwind Man, and Lightning Man songs. As your great-grandmother of the nighttime, I am the mystery. It is my nighttime mystery that dreams take shape as seeds and seeds take form as time. As your great-grandmother of the daytime, I am radiance and clarity. Through my child, your star, the sun, you see and know the shapes of time. Each shape in time is unique and different from all other shapes of time. Mother Earth, your Mother Earth is one shape of time. A turtle is another shape of time. A tree is yet another, for time is a story. Your human bodies are shapes of time. And once you know the story of time, then you become the story. Because of this, you yourself, human child of the earth, you may be the most wondrous and mysterious of all shapes of time. Long ago, your planet was known as Turtle Island by all the children of the earth, for the power of 13 is contained within the matrix on the back of Turtle shell. And as Turtle swims upon the seas of creation, Earth navigates her way through the cosmos, for it takes 13 moons for the Earth to make one complete orbit around the sun, while Tree keeps time, one ring each year. So with Grandmother Moon, you have 13 opportunities yearly of possibility consciousness. With Grandfather Sun, you have 365 high noons of possibility consciousness and one grand possibility consciousness with the summer solstice every year to bring forth, to allow us, and this is the old ones talking, and even including great-grandmother Milky Way, to allow us to manifest through you in as much of possibility as you possibly will allow us to. So there are many points in the ring, 365 to be exact, just with grandfather, elder, brother, son. But remember, great-grandmother Milky Way says there's many, many other planets that, so we all know of planets from our birth charts. They all have their own song. They all have their own time. That's why I keep mentioning it, like last week, talking about Jupiter and Venus starting a new 24-year calendar. So there are many, many points in time for us to dream, to say yes to possibility consciousness and allow ourselves to present, to step up, out, and unto the possibilities. We'll talk about that word unto next time. Then with the waning of the moon, of Grandmother Moon, we realize we've gotten more clarity. So we realize what needs to go so that we can step down in and into ourselves to allow new seeds, better seeds, clarity, as long as we're holding the vision. And this is what you've seen working with me, Julian, in the last 2 years that we've been working, the last 1,000 days, 3 years it is.
Yeah.
Because I started tracking the planets shortly after I took your Mayan cosmology course. So we've known each other now for 1,030 some days. And you've seen this evolve in me more and more, and I've watched it evolve in myself. So with each full moon, what part of Aloha Aini Dao living am I bringing forth? shine forth, to saying yes to come forth through me.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I would like to have someone put attention to the way you speak and compare that to just a regular person who you would ask about the cosmos, and anybody else would just rather say, I don't know. I really don't know. So what a difference it can make when someone wants to know and starts actually learning. And somebody might say, well, I've been learning all my life. And yes, everything you've learned is useful to you, but there's this aloha phase of learning when you start learning from the Ishmukane directly. When she starts, when you actually recognize her as a teacher, right? Not your school teacher, not this book, not, you know.
Oh, and actually, that's what, when you recognize her, when you recognize the great mysteries, when you recognize God, if that's what you want to call it, and you open to it, there are many teachers, because as Umberto Maturana and Francisco Varela said, everything is said by someone. So this doesn't mean you have to sit here with a pen and paper and say, okay, talk to me, and then get discouraged because you don't hear anything or feel like writing anything inspired.
Yeah.
They jump out at me all the time. They talk to me all the time. I have loved to read since I could read. And that's how Ishmukane has talked to me for years, through reading other people's words. But this is what we have to understand, is every thought we think is Ishmukane's heart song, is Nukua's heart song, is Amada's heart song.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever it comes to us from is still them.
Right.
It's still the great mysteries. It's still the old ones. It's still God's.
But then we do need to learn to tune in and distinguish the kind of like the melody, which we can call the true melody.
Yeah.
And the noise, because there's a lot of noise, and the noise is omnipresent. There's so much noise. There's so much deceit. There's so much lie. That's just
the noise would be the human filter it comes through, right? The human belief, right? The belief patterns of the human shape, the human time. What did I say? We are shapes of time, the human shape of time that it comes through, the belief patterns of that human shape or time. That's where you have to allow yourself to hear the distortion of that human shape, time shapes, belief patterns, to go, oh, that's a little jaded, right?
This
That's
is the distortion of
the purity.
Beliefs. I mean, these things that you've said now are so necessary, so helpful to be able to get out of that, you know, because I get, for example, shown people that are a little closer to me or to the possibility. And I love this word you used, possibility. So I was thinking about the potential of time, how there's so much potential energy always available. And there's some cosmological thing that gives, there's this energy which is like potential energy, which is where time hasn't gone yet. There's all that energy that is potentially there.
Well, that's possibility. The potential comes when you remember when we talked about your lono or your uhane, your conscious mind. Because remember, if your consciousness doesn't take doesn't make a choice, you're just always going to be in the stream of possibility and not bring anything to form. Okay. So when you open to the possibilities and go, I like that possibility, let me bring it and focus on it, that's when it potentially comes into form. And the more you focus on it,
yeah. So
greater...
here would be a good point to show that there's a potential to focus on something that is beyond the belief systems. Because what I was saying is that I seem to have such a hard time, or not me, other people have such a hard time, even if they can kind of speak clearly to me and understand what I explain to them, they understand it, right? And I say, hey, here it is. I mean, you can choose to leave the system and choose to leave that path and choose a path that is beyond the system, beyond that deceit and all that garbage, and that takes you back and into the full human potential. And aloha ini, that living is a path, right? So I'm trying to tell them there's a path you can, and it doesn't have to be this one, maybe there's another one, but it's kind of like the same path, and you have to, but it's not the path of the system. And they all end up coming back to just can't get away from it in their minds. It's like there's this fear, and I was meditating about that. It's like we've shown light into a very creepy kind of reality, right? So we're familiar with this, even if we know that it's full of war, it's full of psychosis, it's full of disease, it's full of all the most horrible things you could think of. It's pretty much also like the path of the most torturous way you can have. It's like that's a path that humanity is following, the path of torture, the path of war, the path of suffering, right? So, but then we've shown light into this, so we're familiar with it. And following this path, the path to the return to Aini, is since we haven't shown any light into it, it's dark, it's unknown, it's totally dark for us. So we rather stick to the, even if it's an ugly place, to the place that we are familiar with, than to have this bravery of jumping into the dark of this that we don't know, even if there's somebody there, right? Because you're there, and I'm trying to be there, or we're trying to be there, or we're there. But I mean, I guess it would be more difficult if there was nobody there. But now, hey, there is somebody there, and so that's what I was, that's what I would say to someone. That's like the ultimate barrier you're gonna have, is knowing that you're gonna always feel more comfortable staying in the old.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Habits. I guess my answer to someone would be, now that is, do you really need to wait for the baseball bat? Do you really want the baseball bat? Because it's coming.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it's coming.
That's such a.
So that's that's a kind of another absolute truth.
Say something that's really tough to say. I mean, and some people will jump out and how can you, because they would have this solipsist thing where they would think that, like this woman was saying, your mind is so invasive. And I'm like, well, no, the world you're in is really invasive, and I'm just trying to stick to, speaking from not that world, but I'm not imposing anything on you. I'm just speaking from my mind. But she finds that invasive. because I'm not copycatting the same
Right.
mindset of that they don't want to leave.
Well, because it's an upside down world right now, remember? Everything's upside down. That's why she can accuse you of being invasive when she's the one living in the invasive.
That's why that's why what I answer, or I want to answer is, or when they say you're or when they tell you, Ingrid, oh, you're so far out there. I think you should answer, you're the one that's far out there. I'm right here in the center of the universe.
Yeah.
I'm finally here. I'm finally here, and you're the one that's out there. You know.
Yeah, that hasn't realized you're the birthplace, right?
Right.
Or that you're related to me.
So I think that everything you've shared in these two sessions, it's a really powerful doorway. It's a really powerful. I mean, and I love the way that you're telling the creation story, and you're speaking about sacred, spiritual stuff, but at the same time, you have such a wonderful way of weaving it with the science and proving through your words. Anybody listen carefully to the whole video, to the whole conversation, it's perfectly woven into, said in a way that does not, where science and spirituality are no longer separated and fragmented. They're woven together, they come together, they are the same thing. So I think this is a very, very powerful session, a very powerful gift of knowledge, of words, of story, that you have put together in this, the science of being and becoming. I really loved it. So is there anything else about this?
Nope. Next week, we're going to go into the constituting part of it.
Well, constituting, it's such an amazing thing. How we need to constitute to create ourselves, create and
Or
stop.
how our time shape form here is constituted to.
Okay. Well, I won't say anything else until that time.
That's basically what the constitution part is how does this time shape form get constituted?
Okay. Wow. Okay. So let me make the invitation for anybody that wants to listen and be present and receive this gift in a live manner for next week at Tuesday, 6:30 in any of our channels, Aloha Aini Dao, TAO Living, in Rumble, YouTube, Facebook,
Vimeo.
Instagram, and Vimeo, just pretty much everywhere, and even on the web, aloha-aini-living.com. Aloha-aini-living at gmail.com. If you want to write a mail, we're pretty easy to find, and we're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. And there's the invitation, folks, to join the next live conversation, live channeling, live session, live constitution, because it's also, I think, like a process of constitution that occurs every time we have these conversations.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely.
So I'll send all my munai to everyone, and a lot of munai to Sacred Blue Heron Woman, and we'll see you all next time in the live stream.